Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lynette Territz, and I'm the Director of Operations at the Albany County Land Bank. It's 3:19 on Wednesday, January 14, 2026. We're calling to order a meeting of the Land Bank's Real Estate Committee, and we're holding this meeting remotely per New York State Open Meetings Law. This meeting is available on the Land Bank's YouTube channel for listening and viewing. Today on the call participating in the committee, we have the following board members. We have Joe Seaman-Graves and Sam Wells. Absent from the meeting are Natisha Alexander and Charles Toohey. From the Land Bank staff, we have joining us Shelby Disla, our Administrative Coordinator, Lillian Futch, our Operations Coordinator, Jason Chicoine, our Development Specialist, and we have Sean McGuire joining virtually, who's our Executive Director. The agenda, which has been circulated to the committee members, contains 6 items. The first item is a review of the minutes, and these minutes reflect the last meeting of the committee, which was held in December of 2025. Hopefully everyone has had an opportunity to review them. I know that we don't have a quorum today, so we'll most likely have to take the approval of the minutes to the board. So I'll shelve that for the board meeting. On the agenda number 3, we have new enforcement and compliance. So I'm going to pull that up. We have 68 Green Island Avenue. It's a property in Colony. The buyer purchased the lot with the intention of constructing a single-family residence and resolving an encroachment from the adjacent parcel. Construction has been completed, and the buyers for the property have been identified and vetted by staff. The buyer is requesting a release of the reverter clause in order to proceed with the sale of the property. The staff recommends approving the release of the reverter clause.
Awesome. Question, Lynette, about the buyers. They would meet any criteria we would, are they first-time home buyers? Can you tell me more about them?
Yes.
I believe they are. They didn't list any additional properties on their application that they own, so I do believe that they're first-time home buyers.
Awesome. That's exciting. Yeah, I agree with the release. That makes sense.
Okay.
Same.
Joe, did you have any questions at all?
No, I agree. Thank you.
Okay. And then we have another matter that wasn't included on the agenda. It's regarding 207 Myrtle Avenue. It's a property that was sold, in 2024. The board had approved an extension of the enforcement mortgage through January 31st, 2026. The buyer just needs an extra 2 months to finish the project, and I wanted to bring this before the committee just to get your approval to give the buyer the extra 2 months.
Is there any reason to not give them the 2 months from your point of view?
No, I've inspected the property and he's making good progress.
I have no
So I have
issue.
no doubt that he'll be fine. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, no problems here either.
Okay, great. All right, so those are the only 2 items that we have under enforcement, and again, because we don't have a quorum, we'll just have to wait, bring this before the board. Okay. Number 4, new acquisitions. We don't have any acquisitions this month. Shelby, I'll pass this along to you to go over new dispositions.
Thank you. So first we're going to go over item 5A, which is 64 3rd Street. So applicant 2172 owns and resides in a home located approximately 2 blocks from the subject lot. He intends to use the lot to develop a stable structure and provide off-street parking, citing limited parking availability in that immediate area. So staff recommends not approving applicant 2172 because the proposed use is not permitted under City of Albany regulations.
Agreed. No issue here.
Yep, same. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. So next is item 5B, Swift Road. So applicant 2171 proposes development of a one-family owner-occupied single-family home on the vacant lot. The applicant currently owns a home and intends to sell the property, which will serve as their primary source of funding for the proposed project. The project includes site preparation and excavation work, such as clearing and cleaning the lot, creating an equipment entrance, installing a drainage culvert, and bringing in, placing, and compacting fill to level the site. The contractor has indicated the lot will require time to settle before construction can proceed. These improvements are intended to prepare the property for a future foundation or slab and residential construction. The home is anticipated to be approximately 1,400 square feet and may be a modular or stick-built, depending on feasibility and cost. Construction is expected to begin in summer of 2026, with the potential to extend into 2027 based on site conditions. The home will serve as the applicant's primary residence. And this lot has been in our inventory for about 861 days. So staff recommends approving the sale of Swift Road to applicant 2171.
So when I'm looking at this, there's, if I'm seeing it right, the applicant's income is 16,000 a year, and there seems to be a lot of questions still on construction material and feasibility. I would love to give this applicant a chance, but perhaps we can go with maybe an option to allow them to get financing together and maybe figure this plan out a little bit more. Um, pro-
Yeah, and I know for this one, Joe, she's looking to sell a property that she owns in, I believe, North Carolina. And she was gonna use those funds to,
Sorry, not North Carolina,
or South Carolina, and use those funds to, cover the cost of this, this new construction. So I just wanted to share that information with you.
Sean?
Sean, do you have a question?
Joe, we talked about this in the team last week, and I think that the way we approached this decision was, if this was an existing building, a vacant building that somebody was trying to rehab, I think we would probably hold it to a little more scrutiny because of the impact on the neighborhood. But because this is a lot, I think we're ready. We're ready to give the owner a chance to get things together. We do have the reverter and the enforcement clause to work with, and we had a really productive meeting with our attorney at Whiteman to understand how we might be able to use those tools better, or where we have to, backstop those tools a little bit more. So that's why, we're recommending recommending the sale. Again, if it were a vacant building, I think that we would have some hesitation, but because it's a lot here, I'm not as much concerned, because if nothing happens, then really the impact is just, maintenance. But on a vacant lot, there's not a lot of maintenance that we have to be concerned with.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah.
Thank you.
I also think the location matters too. The fact it's in Voorheesville, much more rural area where an overgrown lot, isn't really as big of a concern or a blight. It sort of looks like a lot of other parts of, more rural areas, as compared to like a vacant lot in the middle of the city of Albany. So I think, to me, that that makes a difference too. I'm okay with the sale as it is.
Thank you.
If it were in the city of Albany, I'd ask about, maybe we set up, an option agreement or something, but I'm okay with it. And it was just an outright sale in this case.
All right, I'll side with Sam on this.
Great, thank you. So moving along to item 5C is County Route 101 in Clemens. The House of Precise Incorporated is a local nonprofit organization serving homeless and disenfranchised youth and young adults in the Capital Region since 2007. The organization's mission is to reduce the impacts of poverty by providing access to food, housing, materials, and resources that support healthy living. So in March of 2024, we approved the purchase of lots 90 lots 88 to 104, Catherine Street, and now they're seeking to expand their efforts to basically have just a gardening space, but also a space for community members to access free, healthy food options. Unfortunately, this is an industrial buffer zone, so staff doesn't recommend approving applicant 2020 as the proposed use is not permitted within an industrial buffer zone.
It's unfortunate on this one, folks, because there's really not much that can be done with this property. We'd like to get the industrial neighbor there to take that property, but we have to get a contact. I attempted to reach out, but we weren't successful. So we'll just keep working on it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just out of curiosity, how was their Catherine Street lots that they purchased? Do we have a sense how those are coming along? I don't remember exactly what they were going to use them for.
Shelby, remind me the address on those Catherine Street lots.
It's 88, 98, 92, 90, 104, 102, and 100.
Okay, I'm mixing them up with a different one. But I have to go back and take a look myself. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know if anybody on the team can chime in.
Yeah, I mean, it's not terribly important. I mean, I think it's sort of irrelevant, obviously, to the decision here being where that lot is. I was just curious. So you don't have to follow up on it right now.
I've not seen them.
Alrighty, thank you. And then the last item, in which we don't have a recommendation for, but we just wanted to update the committee, is item 5D, and it's for 79 Elizabeth Street, our first-time home buyer home. So we have two complete applications, applicant 2170 and 2174. Both applications have been completed and fulfilled. Applicant 2170 is a family of 7, and applicant 2174 is a family of 1. And the only part that's pending is their first-time home buyer course requirement. But they've already submitted paperwork that shows that they've started on that. So this board meeting will be doing the lottery to see who our select buyer is and our alternative buyer is. Any questions?
No, that's exciting news.
It is super exciting.
We're going to bring a little more excitement to the lottery process this month. We usually did that on the screen, on the computer screen, but I wanted the public should be able to see that happen too, and not just trust that it's happening on a screen. And so we have a wheel that one of you are welcome to come and spin. That'll help us with the random selection of that person. It'll be based on where that wheel stops. So
I was gonna say that's a better route than picking a ball out of a machine with only a couple applicants.
it is. There's 10 space. The wheel's got 10 spaces. So what we'll do is each applicant will alternate them through. There will be no $1 space. There's no bonus spins, but yeah, I just wanted to it's something a little bit more visible the way we have things set up on camera too. So I'm mostly excited about that. I mean, I'm glad somebody's going to get it, but spinning that wheel is going to be a good time. So it'll be a good day.
Is this going to need the full force of someone, or how big of a wheel are we talking here?
Joe, you can handle it. I mean,
Okay. I am sick now, so we'll see. If
All right,
I get my
heal up,
strength back.
heal up. We'll let you spin that wheel.
Sounds like Joe just volunteered to do it.
All right. It's a lot of pressure, but I'll take it on my shoulders.
Thank you.
Okay, so joining us is Dan Hubble. He's our counsel from Whiteman, Osterman, and Hanna, and I believe he's going to provide us with an update on the South End co-development.
Sure. Good
Dan,
afternoon,
are you
everyone.
there?
Yep, I'm here. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for sending me the link. So, as you all know, we closed on the South End development end of last year. Major congratulations on that. That is a notable project and a lot of hard work by Sean and his team to uh, envision it and then get it to closing. So we are there. I think the one key thing, and Sean, jump in here if you want, but the one key thing that we want to discuss with you is that um, the co-developer in this is none of the home ownership units that we had contemplated under the MDA, to my knowledge, none of them are going to be built at this point. There was some going back and forth on when we went through there was an amendment that was done that you approved earlier this fall with regard to closing on, initially this was contemplated as a three-phase project. You would be closing on phases 1 and 2 in the fall, which was the total rental phase. Phase 3 would then become the home ownership phase. Your MDG, the development partner, has requested that you potentially reprocure for the home ownership phase of the project, which would essentially allow them to no longer, be obligated to deliver the home
Dan, are
ownership.
you still there?
Yep, I'm here. Did you lose me?
I hear Dan.
Yeah, I hear you, Dan.
Okay. All right, great.
We may have lost Dan.
I'll let them know, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Keep going. Okay, so
Sean,
that
can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
so that way they would they've asked that if you would reprocure the project in terms of the home ownership units for a co-developer to do the home ownership units, which would then basically alleviate MDG from delivering on its initial promise to deliver home ownership units as part of this project. Any amendment to the development agreement with regard to the home ownership units that decreases the number intended, which was always contemplated to be 10 to 20% of the total units, is a material deviation that's going to require board approval. And so before we get too far along in any discussion with MDG as to what to do with the home ownership portion of this, Sean felt that it was important, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but talking to Sean felt it was important to bring this to the committee to get a gauge from you as to where you're at with this. Currently speaking, MDG is still obligated to deliver on the home ownership units under the agreement. Now, Sean, do you want to provide any other color there?
Yeah, I think that we talked about this in the past, but just wanted to make sure that from the real estate committee's perspective, you know where we're at and what we're trying to achieve. I think that we have a potential partner in Habitat, although we would rather Habitat and MDG work together on this, but if MDG would just like to separate from this project, focus on their $97 million housing investment, and then enable us to go out and reprocure this, that's fine. We just have to, we have to follow the right process along the way. And just wanted to make sure that people are still okay with that. And like Dan said, we haven't changed anything. We haven't resolved this or relieved them of the obligation. And I think that, I'm going to insist that they solve this problem the way that works for all of us, and creates the least amount of outside work necessary to achieve it. But it does mean having to, eventually approve a change, but I wouldn't recommend that we approve a change until we have a solution.
Yeah, agreed. If I can just jump in, agreed very much with what Sean said. I know that when this was initially negotiated, the Master Development Agreement was negotiated a few years ago, that the home ownership units was a very important piece to both the land bank and the community, and was heavily negotiated. I did the negotiations, it was heavily negotiated at the time. We did, as Sean said, we did identify a route to MDG that would include habitat that I think we would all be comfortable with. And MDG, came back with, well, why don't you just reprocure it and Habitat can be the selected person. Obviously, reprocurement, it's a lengthy process, as you all know, versus MDG necessarily just going to Habitat and essentially subcontracting with Habitat to do this work. Keeps MDG involved, keeps them at the table, allows Habitat to draw on their expertise and on their skills and experience, but also allows the land bank to not necessarily have to go through another lengthy procurement process.
Yeah, Dan, I agree with the subcontracting piece. I definitely want MDG to put in effort, substantial effort to figure this out with us. And if they, I guess, Mike, before I dive into some of my other thoughts, let's say we can't come to an agreement and, it's a clear violation of the original agreement, which I know our board chair feels very strongly about, as did several other previous former members of this board when it was originally negotiated. What's what are the penalties? What are the recourse if, we can't get it figured out with MDG and they just refuse to do it?
I mean, we'd be looking at, I have the agreement up in front of me, so we'd be looking at a default.
I wouldn't want them to not build all the other units. Those are desperately needed too.
Yeah,
But,
then notice that ship is, and as to that ship
Right.
is, I mean, that ship is out of the harbor and at sea. And I don't think there's anything that we can really do to stop that. But I think, I'm looking at the cure.
Just thinking out loud here, like, is there I don't know, I mean, would there be a substantial payment that would allow us to finance the development of home ownership units separately or something along those lines? Really, I mean, it'd be easier for them to just subcontract, and that's what
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree with the insistence on that. That makes the most sense. It's the cleanest, easiest, and quickest for seemingly everybody involved. So I don't understand why they
Because
aren't going for that.
I mean, to be frank, because building affordable home ownership units is really hard, and is as we all know, like the 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 economics tilt everything towards the rental side of thing as opposed to the sales side of thing. There
A
are
hundred-
programs.
100% agree. I just,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
not
there
like it's
are.
a surprise to them. They've known
Yeah,
about
they should
this.
know, and they knew it going in. They knew it going. So I'm looking at the cure rights, right? The remedies cure rights. So you can, your rights are to terminate. You can pursue other remedies at law or equity or condition further participation and change in terms of to the agreement. I think really what we'll be looking at is remedies available at law or equity. I don't. I want to leave specific performance out of the discussion right now. You get what I'm saying? Like anything like that. I think what it would be better to do is to go back to MDG and say to them, look, this was, as you just said, Sam, a core part of what was negotiated. This is still an important piece here. We recognize that you weren't able to include it within the rental phases of this project, but we're going to hold your feet to the fire. It's incumbent upon you to still deliver homeownership units. And we're happy to have you work with Habitat. We're happy to assist and marshal resources and folks, et cetera, to get this happen. But we're still looking for 10 to 20% of the total unit mix be homeownership units, and we expect you to deliver on that. So you need to continue to work on that. And I think that then, let's see what they come back with on that.
Yeah, I agree. Anything other than that, I doubt would have the votes for passage at a board meeting right now anyway. So
That's very helpful to hear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm fairly confident in saying that. I know I wouldn't vote for it. I'm 100%
gonna-
certain our board chair wouldn't go for it. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I voiced my concern when we broke off this phase so they can get through financing with the rentals, seeing that it was likely gonna come to this, because it is harder to build, and I got that. But it's they're not gonna get a vote to get out of any further obligations. So Dan, I appreciate the overview, and I think the approach you just outlined is the one we should take.
Okay, so we have a call with them next Tuesday on this, and so I will cover this with them on that call.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
All right.
Dan. I appreciate the work you and your team are doing to help us out with this and all the other projects.
Yeah, we love working for you guys. You're a valued client, and the work that you're doing is really significant right now and needed. So we love working for you guys.
Yeah, perfect. All right. We'll
All
catch
right.
up again next Tuesday then.
All right, I'll hop off. Take care, everybody.
All right, thanks, Dan. We'll see you.
All right, bye.
Bye. All right, I think the next
All right.
item on the, oh, go ahead, Lynette. I didn't know if you guys were still connected.
No, I was gonna ask if there are any questions or concerns or anything else related to that.
no, none
Concerns?
here.
Yes, no questions.
Same as Joe. I do
Okay.
appreciate the update. That is very helpful.
Okay.
All right, the last thing we
All right,
have.
so the last,
Go ahead, sorry.
sorry, Sean. All right, the last item on our agenda we have is to review the sale programs, past and present. We want to just give you like a quick overview of three of the lot programs that we have, that we had at one point, because ultimately we really want to review these programs and figure out which ones, we'd like to bring back, and also think about other programs that we could possibly implement based on our current inventory. So the first one is the residential side lot program. So what we consider a side lot is obviously a single vacant lot located directly next to an existing home. Eligible side lots must be in one of our focus neighborhoods, so that's West Hill, Arbor Hill, Sheridan Hollow, and South End. In terms of eligibility, the person has to own and live in the home directly adjacent to the vacant lot or share the property line, or live in one of the focus neighborhoods listed. They have to submit an application as with all of our other lots, but in terms of pricing, it's $500 a lot plus, that does not include, including closing costs for eligible applicants, or $100 plus closing costs if your income is under 50% of the area median income for the Albany, Schenectady, Troy area. So that's the first one. The second one is our Spend a Little, Get a Lot program. And for that one, eligible lots are sold for just $100 plus closing costs to qualified neighbors who live nearby. The program is designed to reward long-term residents and responsible property owners who are already invested in their block. To qualify, the applicants must live within 500 feet of the lot, be an owner-occupant or a renter with 5 or more years at their current residence, and then the property must have been in the land bank's inventory for over 1 year. And then adjacent property owners and renters will be given first preference if the property is, if it's a competitive application process. If the household income is below 50% of the area median income for the Albany, Schenectady, Troy region, then that person would qualify for a $500 credit towards closing costs. The purchase price is $100 plus closing costs. And then the third one is our Lots for Less program. So it's just vacant lots for $100. It selects vacant lots, and that includes the standard closing costs. So the $100 purchase price includes legal closing fees, basic tax search, county recording fees, title insurance is not included. Let me see. To qualify for this program, the applicant must live in the same neighborhood as the participating lot. Eligible applicant types are homeowners, adjacent landlords, renters with 5 or more years rental history in the neighborhood, nonprofits, community organizations with a physical presence in the area. They have to have a household income at or below 80% of the AMI, and then meet our standard land bank buyer eligibility. So those are 3 lot programs, again, that we just wanted to kind of refresh your memories on as we kind of go through our existing inventory to, just to evaluate our inventory and how we can best bring these lots back to productive use. And
Thank
Sean,
you.
did you want to, oh, you're welcome, Sam.
Yeah, I think that, right now we don't really have anything in the programs. And let me speak to maybe the residential side lot program first. I think that where we have that program, it might be worth revising or revisiting the ability to buy the lots when you're not the adjacent neighbor. But I have a solution for that as well. The side lot program, I think, works really well where you're next to an existing home to be able to expand your side yards, a little bit more green space. It's up to the city whether they're going to let you put a curb cut in for a driveway, but I think that certainly the added green space is beneficial in neighborhoods. The one thing that I probably struggle with a little bit here is that if you don't live in the adjacent property, what happens there. If somebody's using that for a garden or an open space, that's fine. Sorry, I was trying to close the door. But I think that we've tested out a licensing model for people that want to use a lot of hours for gardening or green space without selling a lot off for that reason. So I think, if we take a look at that, the residential side lot program, I think we still keep the focus to adjacent property owners, but we modify this a little bit more and take a bit of our piloting for the licensed lot model and replace, use that as the preferred way to get people who don't live adjacent to a property who want to use a land bank lot that live in the neighborhood, a way to do that through that licensing model. And I think that has worked out fine. Livingston Amber, we did that for a young woman who was using that for her Girl Scout project. Admittedly, I need to take a ride over there and see how her space is doing. But I think that's how I would address that piece. I was recently in Michigan, and I apologize. I don't remember if it was Flint or Lansing, but does a similar thing with licensing lots out for gardens and green spaces, similar to what we're doing too. So it's not an unfamiliar approach, but it does allow us to retain some control over properties, especially if another opportunity comes along and we don't have to worry about trying to, re-secure a vacant lot. And then we can work with folks to, move improvements elsewhere.
Hey, Sean, my thought on the side lot program, I agree with everything you said. I do wonder, when it comes to lot eligibility, I know we had, limited it to our focus neighborhoods. I also wonder if we want to think more about like time and inventory as a qualifier, maybe not in a way that we like announce it, so to speak, but some of our lots, especially in some of our outlying neighborhoods, like the ones that we were just discussing, for sale, those that have been in our inventory for a long time, clearly, I don't know, it seems like a lot of those adjacent neighbors didn't bite on it, and maybe this could help sweeten the pot. And so, I mean, obviously we can, we would still want to favor our focus neighborhoods, of course, but I don't maybe think we need to necessarily limit ourselves to them.
Sure.
For our lots that have been in inventory for several years as a way to, help incentivize them to get moved, so to speak. I don't know, thoughts on that? Just sort of thinking out loud here.
Yeah, I think we could even sort of take a hybrid approach to that, like with Mo to Own, where that's not an active, it's not an active program of ours, but if somebody does put equity in, does that give them a favorable chance to then acquire the lot? And so, maybe if they license it for 3 years, and after 3 years of good stewardship and maintenance, they actually become eligible to acquire the lot and no longer just have to be a licensee of it. And this is where I admittedly struggle. And I think it's a good discussion, for in the committee to have is, if we're trying to help people build equity in neighborhoods that have had this investment, like our focus neighborhoods. I think we have to still keep that in mind, um, but in a way that helps us strategically connect different touch points in our work along the way. So, activating lots is important, but so is housing, but we don't really, I mean, so where are we putting a priority on? I think we've tended to prioritize better access to housing over creating green spaces in the community. And I think given our situation, that's probably the right place to be. But down the road, you're right. If something's sat in inventory for 2,000 days and we have properties like that, maybe it's time to get somebody in here to take greater ownership, but give them a way to know what it means to become a property owner as well. Am I making sense? I hope so.
Yeah, I'm thinking of that Swift Road lot that we just, authorized for sale to the woman from South Carolina. There's adjacent property owners there, and if I were them, I would have snatched that lot up and added to my property, right? It was in our inventory for 861 days. That's multiple years. I don't know if cost was a prohibitive factor there or if they just weren't interested, but um, those lots I know can be a little tougher in some ways they can be tough to sell as well, in some ways because there's, limited use, and especially some of these outlying communities with pretty restrictive zoning codes, minimum lot sizes for building, right? Just something to think about there.
Yeah, and having some of these lots that have been sitting around for a while, I think we also have to think about other partners to come in with. So one that immediately stands out to me, and admittedly because we work in the same department at the university where I teach as an adjunct, is the ITECA program, and what they're doing for tree coverage. A lot of that has been trees in public spaces, not only to reduce their urban island heat effect, but to also give people access to cooler spaces, during the hotter months. If we were to partner better with them to allow them to do some plantings on our lots, then there might be somebody who might be willing to, adopt that lot and take care of it and, be more than just a vacant piece of property, but a property with some community benefits and improvements to it. We have to work through issues of access along the way there for sure, because we don't want to create a liability mess by, encouraging public access to properties that we don't have insured for that type of access. I think that's something that we have to be mindful of. But yeah, I think we're at the point where we're looking for different solutions, and maybe they're ones that haven't and nobody's tried yet. And I think that's one of the challenges I think with land banks today. We had a model that worked for a long time, and then with the changes due to the Supreme Court, we're all trying to rebuild a model that was shaken up a little bit. So.
Yeah, I'll just add, I'm all for looking at alternative uses for these lots that are sitting around for 2,000 plus days, and it finally sound like we're talking urban planning all of a sudden, not development.
Yeah, well, and I may, I hope that days and inventory figure was helpful. We added that this month, and I think that we should continue that because I think that speaks to some of the questions you all have had as we work through some of this. But yeah, I think we have to start thinking about what happens 5 years from now, and I think that's what you all as a board, and I think that the staff team have been really like locked into is it's not transactional. And I say that's been one of the biggest shifts for us as a land bank is, to move from a transactional sales model to what I'm calling a community value model in land banking. So, part of that is, looking at all these programs again and saying, are these really working? Or do we have to, tweak something up, modify something? Do we have to do what we did back in the summer of 2024, where we went through and we created the Unlock a Lot pilot to market our landlocked properties to adjacent property owners? And you'll remember the difference in that program was that we sold lots all inclusive. The price was all inclusive. It was the price you see is the price you pay sort of situation. And we had some limited success with that. And, we tried it once and it seemed to go well. I think we might have to expand that a little more. We'll have to push that one a little bit more, but we may have to expand that and into the side lot programs too. I don't know. There's some turnoffs to the real estate transaction process, especially when you see that you're, what the price you're offering per piece of property is not the price you end up having to pay at the end of the day.
Yeah, we have had a really good example in Cohoes of a woman who bought actually a land bank property, and we may still be reeling from this one. I haven't looked at it in a while. She went to put a tiny home and a pocket park on it. And what she ran into, I mean, she had health concerns and there was reasons why she couldn't go forward with the project, but the insurance that was going to be put on maybe a 60-foot stretch of grass with a bench for her to invite the public, it was counterproductive for her to move forward with the project from that perspective alone. So I think there's a lot of things to look at, and I agree that we have to get creative, but there's real practical reasons why we can and can't do things, unfortunately. So I'd love to pick like one lot as an example and see how we, let's work on this one and make an example moving forward. But yeah, it will be challenging.
Okay. Yeah, if we can maybe get through some programs and policies the next couple of months, and then maybe when the spring rolls in, we can take a lot or a couple, even a couple of lots and throw them against the wall and see what sticks. Hate to use that example, but that's what comes to mind right now. I think the office team has something to weigh in here. I thought so because did you raise Shelby? Did anybody? Oh, no, their hand went down. Okay.
Yeah, no, Sean, we were just gonna bring up the closing costs, which has definitely been, people have been turned off by that. But you already went into that a little bit.
Yeah, we had one buyer recently, or one applicant recently, who ended up not following through in the transaction because they didn't anticipate the closing costs, and it put it out of reach for them. Which is another, as we talk about overall policies, we're going to go back and look at things because we do have a policy. The way that's written is that if you don't complete a transaction with land bank, you become ineligible moving forward. And I think that there are reasons that some real estate transactions don't advance, and I would understand that, and that maybe doesn't hold somebody from being able to show up again because that buyer was concerned, or that applicant was concerned that she doesn't complete the transaction, is she going to be eligible to buy again? And she had a real cost issue that she didn't anticipate, and I think in fairness, I probably wouldn't hold that against them. It's unfortunate. It's probably frustrating, but well, I'm looking at the time now. It's 4:00, so we are sort of at the time. Lynette, do we have any? Was that the last thing on here? Was just the review of sales programs?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think this is good for us to keep talking about the sales programs and some potential updates. So we'll take a look at the residential side lot program. Maybe for next month, the team and I can sit down and offer some suggestions on how we might modify that and, take some lessons learned from other programs and bring that forward. I think our goal at the end of the day is just to clean up our clean up our programs, make sure that we're all on the same page as to what programs are out there and what programs we're not offering anymore. There are some that aren't offered anymore. And those are Neighbors for Neighbors, because that was the funding program from years ago. I think that's the only one that's inactive is Neighbors for Neighbors. So, but anybody have anything else before the board? Otherwise, I'm all set. And Lynette, if there isn't anything else, I think you can declare this committee adjourned.
Okay.
All set. Thank you, guys.